Good morning. On behalf of Bermuda Cricket Board and Cricket Fraternity, I'd just like to make an official announcement of our new executive director that's replacing Neil Spike. Our new executive director is Cal Blankendale, which comes with years of sporting background and administrative skills. As everybody knows, he was the first vice president at BFA, also runs Brazilian football club as well as his own personal management, his management group. So at this time, I'd just like to say welcome on board, Cal.
Thank you.
And welcome to the Bermuda Cricket Board.
Thank you very much.
Any questions from me?
Well, we'll start because you've opened it up. How many applicants applied for this position?
We had quite a bit of applicants. There was approximately between 8 and 10 applicants that applied for this position.
Okay.
How wasn't it possible to find? I know, and congratulations, Cal, on your appointment. With all due respect to Cal, wasn't it possible to find someone from the cricketing fraternity?
As I said, we had 8 to 10 people that applied. We had some people that had cricketing background, but not the administrative skills that was required to do the position.
Well, on to Cal, but we'll be back. Congratulations, as Gary said. You bring a wealth of knowledge and experience to a position of leadership. Looking at it, what's your first order of business in this new role?
My first order of business, having talked with the president and some of the executive members, is to first of all introduce myself to the cricket affiliates to ensure that the good governance which was done with the past 15 years by Mr. Neil Spake continues, to maintain the relationships with the corporate entities and the local governing bodies and government at large for stakeholder funding, and to keep everyone abreast of cricket at the grassroots level. That's what the sports management role and the executive director's role requires here at the BCB. And first and foremost is to make sure that our national teams remain competitive and all they need to travel, and for any hosting events that we are going to do on island, that we are ready for any of those situations.
No, you as the president said, you have you wear a lot of hats. How does this one here play a significant role in what you do on a regular basis?
Yeah, so this is an opportunity that came along, and we all know that these opportunities do not occur too often in this small island. So having received this opportunity by my application, it's in the transition phase with my good friend Dennis Brown, that the role that I have played for many years is transitioning to another person. And we are in discussions on doing that at the time.
What was it that made Mr. Blankendale the choice, or gave him the nod over the other applicants?
Well, one of our major reasons is Mr. Blankendale is basically in our community, understands our grassroots, that all our clubs basically from football to cricket are the same clubs, understands their needs as well as understands the marketing for Bermuda cricket, what we need for Bermuda cricket, as well as the corporate sponsors that we have in Bermuda cricket that he can liaison with what has been doing already.
Can you confirm or deny that a British national, someone from overseas, was in fact the BCB's choice, but the compensation package was not sufficient, and that led to having to make, I don't want to say, well, take the next best person, but that led to Mr. Blankendale being selected?
I wouldn't say that was our first choice. I'm saying it actually came down to a few choices into our last interviews, and we just chose on what we heard from those last interviews who was our number one choice, and Cal was our number one choice.
No truth to the claims that are foreign.
Yes, so it's true that we had people that applied from overseas. Yes, we did.
But they weren't the number one choices.
They weren't the number one choice.
There have been several separations from the BCB in recent times. We had Gershon Gibbons, Nairnsky, Mr. Spate, as you mentioned. Clay Smith was not retained as the coach. We had the tournament cancelled twice. We had Miss Fiona Holmes, who left in April or May of this year. What would you say has been your main contribution as president of the Bermuda Cricket Club? Board, sorry. Based on the fact that we've had all these separations from the BCB, some might say that doesn't all go well.
Oh, okay. The I would say my main contribution that's been so far has been the actual making sure that this board has actually got into a financial standing much better than it was when I first came on board. Has also set a direction of where we're going to go from her forward, and bringing on Cal as the new executive director. Not saying that Neil wouldn't have been able to do the job. Comes in with fresh ideas as well to lead us going forward.
But no fewer than 6 separations. How does that reflect on the BCB, and how is that going to impact your job, Cal, as the new ED?
As the new ED, it's difficult to speak on what's happening in the past, but having had talks with the president, some of the executive and staff here on site already, there's goodwill and good intent to continue to advance the BCB's direction. And my role as the executive director, is to make all those connections and to liaison and keep everyone abreast of what's going on and to keep everyone involved. And communication between all stakeholders, internal and external, is key to retain the staff, sponsors, the player pool, and the international arena about what's going on in cricket and passing it on to the Bermudian public.
Would you be looking at perhaps hiring us? Will the BCB perhaps be looking at hiring someone to assist Mr. Blankendale in his new role, or no?
As you know, we're a charitable organization. We're not financially viable where we can just go out and hire. We are going to look to replace Fiona Holmes, the marketing director, and that's going to be one of his first tasks to do is to, we have had people that have applied, and that will be his first job, is to contact those people and start interviews on replacing Fiona's job as marketing director. So our office staff, when it comes to finances, maxes out at 3 people.
So what about in terms of the first vice president? Mr. Bascom has been hired as a new coach and so on. Are any of these other vacant positions going to be filled?
All those vacant positions are filled, other than the marketing director. All of them have been refilled in November in our previous AGM.
There is one last question. There are, from what I understand, some of these applicants submitted for the position of executive director, submitted extensive information along with their applications to restructure the BCB and stuff like that. Are any of those ideas going to be taken up and used under the new ED?
I can't say. I would have to review those documents. We did have an HR team that done the preliminary interviews, and that actually limited us, that put us down to 3 final applicants. So basically, we was provided with the 3 final applicants at the executive level, and that's what we dealt with. So I don't know.
Can you confirm or deny that David Sabir was a member of the panel that did the interviews?
Yes, I can.
There is a suggestion, or there is a feeling in the wider community that there's a cliquism that exists within the BFA. Not my words. And as you rightly said, Mr. Blankendale is a former vice president of the BFA. And now we have Mr. Sabir, who currently sits on the BFA, as I understand, the chairman of the interview panel, if I can call it that. Some might say that there may have been a conflict of interest there.
I wouldn't say it was a conflict because he was not the only one that was on the committee.
But was he the chair of the panel?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was.
So you see where I'm getting at, that it could have been a conflict of interest there. Some might say the BFA assisting a former BFA president.
That was just the initial committee, the HR committee that vetted, and then they suggested 3 people, and those 3 people then came to the executive, and the executive committee then chose out of the 3 people. After additional interviews, chose the one person that we felt was the best person for the job.
What is your initial ambition for the BCP and the BCB, sorry, in your new role as executive director?
The initial ambition is to ensure that the BCB, the cricket, gets back to a high international standards. One would be to continue the development of the grassroots game. That's across all sports and unit, but we're talking about cricket at the moment. We have to retain the player pool, have to ensure they continue to play post U14, which is a challenge. And then we have to make sure there's enough international opportunities for the national team to advance out of Group 5, or there's going to be consolidation out of that bracket, and to advance back into a higher pool. It's almost mirroring what's happening on the other side of the sports arena, where there's now the CONCACAF League of Nations. Similar setup is going to be for cricket, where there's now going to be opportunities for our best players to play more matches at advanced level, and that would be the intent to get cricket in the international arena at its highest level. We know what the World Cup brought. We can't go back to that level and just be pleased what happened there. We have to get back to that level as high as possible, as soon as possible.
I know about your expertise and your soccer acumen, your football acumen. Don't know much about your relationship with cricket. Do you see that at all impacting your performance as executive director of the BCB?
No, I mean, there's one thing we have to be honest about. If you ask Cal Blankendow to build a Yorker to get down the wicket and hit a six, no, but that's not the role of the executive director. If you ask Cal Blankendow to go out and liaise with the sponsors, local government, international governing bodies, to deal with grassroots, parents, affiliates, and the media, that's the role of the new executive director, and to make sure that the association remains financially stable and manages the budget. That's Cal Blankendow. So if you want me to build a Yorker, no. But if you want me to make sure that cricket continues to improve and advance and stays the national sport of choice along with soccer, that's Cal Blankendow.
What's your vision for the BCB?
The BCB, my vision would be that we can actually, as a country, look at the BCB, be proud of what we have, and everyone is happy to see that we are doing quite well on the international stage and developing young people out of cricket into successful citizens. They're not all going to be professional cricket players, but as a country, we can achieve our best, and they can all come back and do good for us.
Question about connections. You have a lot of connections within the football fraternity, getting youngsters into colleges in the U.S. There's plenty of colleges that play cricket in the U.S. all along the East Coast. Will you be trying to liaison with them to get some of our youngsters who are not into the football into cricket?
Well, first of all, I'm the executive director, so I would have to defer that to the president and the executive committee. But once we have our formal meetings, I will be definitely pushing the agenda for education and cricket. And in tandem, we will look to any international institutions that would be looking for potential cricket players with the preferred grades to go to those academies or schools.
Mr. President, have the finalists all been informed whether or not they were, well, the other two have been successful in they're not getting the post?
Yes, they have.
When did that take place? Because I understand up to yesterday it hadn't happened.
They all have been informed.
When did it take place?
Anything else? Any other questions?
Is that a refusing to answer the question, Mr. President?
Any questions? That's right.
One last question. Can you confirm or deny that those advice letters didn't go out up until probably today?
I will have to check on that and confirm, but by what I've known, they've all been notified.
But you don't know if it happened before today,
I don't know that.
even as the president of the BCB.
That's correct.
Challenging times for the BCB, no doubt. How optimistic are you with the new executive director on board that we can tackle some of these issues that we have facing cricket? Mr. President, questions to you.
Questions to me?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm saying season just starting. We've got situation umpire shortages. We've got challenges in cricket, and we've got the executive director on board. How confident are we that we can get things really in place now that we had the position filled, executive director position filled?
Well, the executive director is going to fill a lot of roles because there's a lot of things that have been, a lot of things that he can do that hasn't been able to be done at the present time with the shortage of staff that we have. When it comes to the cricket season, that's our cricket committee, and that's our responsibility to make sure that the cricket is up and running and deal with the umpires to make sure that the umpires got enough staff to do our games. So that's not really our executive director's role.
Yeah, it's a cricket issue. That's my point. So, obviously, something that needs to be tackled, not just within the umpires, but the cricket board themselves in terms of shortage of umpires.
Yes, and the cricket committee is looking into that.
Shouldn't that have been addressed before the start of the season?
Yes. Up until the start of the season, we have had a lot of communication with the Umpire Association, and they assured us that they had enough umpires. If you know Bermuda, when it comes to football and cricket, when it comes to referees and umpires, our staff, majority of our cricket umpires are police officers and shift workers. So guaranteeing that they're off on a Saturday and Sunday is something that I can't control.
Has the time come for the BCB to start umpiring courses to attract more people to the room?
We had 2 umpiring courses this off season. The Umpire Association had 2 umpiring courses, and they only attracted 1 more umpire.
Is that an indication of a lack of interest, growing lack of interest in the game?
I wouldn't say a real lack of interest. I would say probably a lack of trying to be out and donating their time for a whole day compared to a referee that's only out there for approximately 90 minutes. You're asking somebody to sacrifice a whole day, and they're gonna have to love the sport more than just actually, having the interest.
Cal, your experience as the first vice president of the Bermuda Football Association, what over there did you learn that you can bring over here and sort of talk with the executive to sort of get things on a level playing field?
First and foremost, once you sit in this seat or an executive seat, you take away all the personal issues. You look at the rules and regulations and the constitutions of your body and competitions. Once you follow those guidelines, it actually removes a lot of the issues at hand. And then last but not least is diplomacy and time management, recognizing there are times and deadlines you have to meet for local, domestic, international regulations and events and competitions. And then the diplomacy that there's going to always be issues between clubs because everyone plays a match at the highest level as an adult to win, not for recreation, even as amateurs. And one team will win and one team will lose. And there are going to be issues in between about max fixtures and rain dates and rescheduling and other details. And you have to look at them with the rules and regulations, but also the communication can be very diplomatic to avoid any concerns that may not be able to be resolved easily.
Mr. President, you did indicate Mr. Blankendahl's first order of business is to go through and vet the people that apply for Fiona's former position. But what else is it on the table that needs to be addressed immediately for his position?
Right now, like I said, that's probably our number one is getting the staffing up to where it should be. Then the next condition is basically getting hold of clubs and getting contact and working on our grassroots programs that is ongoing right now.
Any of the candidates who applied for Mr. Blankendahl's job eligible to be considered for the marketing manager's post?
None of them applied when we posted it.
Mr. Blankendahl, did you give much thought to this position, applying for this position, or was something that you saw right away and said, maybe I can do that? Did you have to really think about it?
No, I did give much thought. Initially, I cast it aside, to be honest, because the concerns from the community, I knew they were going to say football because they see cricket and football. But the more I looked at the job description, it spoke about the management and administration of the game, not the technical coaching of the game. And so that attracted me, saying if I remove the word cricket and plays football, it would be a same type of job that is volunteer or paid that I've done in the past. I've said it before, liaison with government, international bodies, the media, our local stakeholders. One thing that did attract me once I looked at it, out of the 14 or 13 clubs that are registered to play cricket this season, 9 play dual sports, football and cricket. So those cricket presidents or football presidents, depending on which side of the season and which sport they played at any given time, they are probably in the same boat as mine. I was a former president of the West Star Sports Club, and I had to deal with football and cricket at that time. So now having moved from one side to the other, I understand the concepts. One of the things that attracted me was remaining connected to grassroots. I personally like to see the development of young people in sports, and clubs do that in Bermuda, underappreciated. And secondly, I understand what the local clubs are going through because the infrastructure, whether it's a Devonshire Recreation Club, a Western Star Sports Club, a St. George's Cricket Club, a St. David's Cricket Club, football and cricket are all played on the same grounds, but the site, the funding is all the same. So when we're talking about the development of the sport, we're here today for cricket, but it's a broader aspect of it, and I can touch on both aspects with it.
One of the things that comes to mind in the past, we had the BFA and the BCB working closely in terms of their schedule. So football tended to try to consider the cricket trying to start at a reasonable time in terms of closing grounds and then getting wickets prepared. Is that something that seems to have fallen off in the last few years? I mean, football's played right up until almost 2 or 3 before cricket starts. So, is that something that you could do with your football contact you can work on and getting that sorted out?
I have to be careful, Mr. Moreno, in the room, but I will do my best on behalf of the Bermuda Cricket Board to liaison with the Bermuda Football Association, the President, Mr. Mark Wade, the General Secretary, Mr. David Sabir, he will speak to that competitions committee, and we have to be mindful that they have a schedule. We have a schedule by communication in advance notice as much as possible. Hopefully, we can align our schedules better for the players that need rest in between the dual sports, and also for the spectators and our grounds as well, because the same grounds are being used, so the wear and tear goes for both sports.
You mentioned that a lot of your focus is that you're passionate about young people and promoting them and helping them to use the opportunities that are provided through sport. What is going to be your approach to cricket, based on what Bill mentioned earlier on about colleges and so on in the US now getting involved in the sport?
Well, first and foremost, all of our players locally are students first, athletes second. So everyone is categorized as a student athlete. So it's making sure that no matter what they're doing on the field, they recognize that their off-field education and academics is key. Once they are doing the best in their school at the best of their ability, then we can transition their academic standing and remind them that they have to continue to advance in the sport of their choice, which is cricket, what we're talking about. Once we have that, we can approach any academy or college or boarding school. But first of all, we have to remove the athletic component first sometimes and make sure they're doing the academic side of it first. If we focus too much on the athletic side and then try to add the academic component at the end, it's not a good fit, because they would go overseas and subject to fail, because those schools have a criteria. As you would know with your son, grades come first before you step into the field or into the pitch. But again, if there's a wealth of schools that are looking for cricket players, and we are so close to the United States, and we have, I would say, more of a disposable income that we can afford some of the school fees, it only makes sense to develop those relationships. And we'll look to Mr. Basin if he has any additional contacts for that, since he has brought it to the table.
The board has all 36 of those already given some years ago. Mr. President, will the organization be utilizing Mr. Blankendahl's strength in that, where we can offer young cricketers the opportunity of having the chance to play cricket in college as opposed to having to go to England?
Well, England is, besides England, we do provide a boarding school conference that comes down every year to provide kids opportunity to go to the UK, which has much more opportunities than we would have in the USA. Mr. Blankendahl, we understand what knowledge he brings, and we'll be looking to use every bit of knowledge that he has that could benefit cricket.
You have a short list of 3. How many applicants did you have in total for the position as chief executive?
As I mentioned before, I think it was between 8 and 10.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck, bro.
Yes.
In your corner.